But this should be a lot of fun. We're talking about influencer marketing, which has been a hot item for the past decade or so. And through this workshop, you'll learn how you can better work with influencers. We're still evolving the practice. We're still optimizing our time. And hopefully today you walk away with a few real tactical ways to entice influencers, work with influencers, and measure them. So let's jump in. My name is Danny Palestine. I'm the head of product marketing at Julius. Julius is a SaaS solution for influencer marketing where you can identify influencers, reach out to them, manage them, and then report. I've gotten a lot of my experience by being at agencies for the past 10 years. I've been able to touch on a lot of different verticals, handling strategy and production and everything in between. So I now lend my expertise to the team at Julius and our customers to help them do their best work. And as you can see in this beautiful photo that was created for me, I am the host of the Julius Profiles podcast, available on your favorite streaming service. So if you want to tune in, or if you even want to be a guest, let me know, and we can chat after this. There is going to be a lot of stuff that we are going to get through today. It's going to be interactive. There's going to be time for you to actually do some work. Hopefully you guys were able to get the materials over here as well as a notebook. They're going to be part of the session today. But don't worry. If you're going to be taking a lot of photos, you're taking a lot of notes. If you miss something, don't worry. Find Mike Torp over here. He's going to have an iPad for you to get this deck and all the materials that you have with you today. But stay tuned to the end to figure out how you can get it yourself. So let's dive in. The first thing that you're really going to want to do when you're starting to think about what influencers to work with is literally writing down your criteria. Writing down your criteria is going to be helpful for a few different reasons, not just going out into the wild and figuring out, oh, this person is good for me. One, it'll help you stay objective. I think things are cool. I think I like this aesthetic of different content. But what's good for your brand, it might not be, what's good for your brand might be aligned with what your personal tastes are. Literally writing it down so that when you're going through the fields and fields and fields of influencers that are in this space, you'll be able to cut through the clutter pretty quickly. Everyone is trying to get in the influencer. My mom is trying to get in the influencer game these days. You want to make sure you don't work with my mom, but you're finding people that are aligning with your criteria that you have set first and foremost. And then chances are you guys are not working in a silo. You're not, if you are, good luck. But if you're working with a team, you're going to want to make sure that you have alignment on your criteria, basically to make your influencer selections bulletproof. So by the time you have to say, hey, I have these great potential partners, you can say, hey, I'm picking this person because we align on this criteria. So there's two main things that you're going to want to start thinking about as you dive into your influencer criteria. The first is, what do they look like on social? Are they going to be a good brand fit? And secondly, can they do the work that I need them to do to help me reach my objectives? But what does this actually look like? How do we bring this to life when we're going through influencer selection? Demographics, I think, is pretty easy to understand. The vitals of this influencer, who they are, their ethnicity, their age, their personal income, things that make sure that this influencer looks and feels like your target audience, or sometimes that they influence your target audience. Sometimes you're looking to target moms, but maybe you want to actually find an influencer that's the dad that loves them. Personal brand. How do they present themselves on social? What stories can they tell? Are they aligning with the stories that you want to tell? Is that a good match? Reach and engagement, I think a lot of people can understand this concept, but a lot of the time, people always think, oh, the biggest and the best is what I'm looking for, millions and millions of followers. But it's not just about compensation, it's about strategy. Are these people able to connect with your target consumer in a really engaging way? What is their engagement rate, and is that something that's important to me? Audience. So when they talk, who listens? Just because an influencer does and looks a certain way doesn't mean that their audience is a mirror match. People follow influencers for a variety of different reasons across the influencer's journey. Maybe they saw a post that was about X, Y, and Z, and that's why they're joining. It's important to understand who's paying attention to this influencer. Logistics. if you're in New York and you're doing a pop-up in New York, is the influencer in New York? Are you going to fly them from LA to do this? Logistically, doesn't make sense. And then secondarily, their capabilities. Can they shoot the video that you want them to shoot? Or more simply, have they created a recipe before if you're in the food industry? Have they been able to do the interview that you want them to do with your CEO? You don't want your campaign to be a guinea pig to see if the influencer can do it. You want to make sure that they have the skill set first and foremost. And red flags. In today's world, social is moving fast. Are they polarizing? Are they using profanity? Are they saying things that don't exactly jive with your brand? If you're in the booze industry and they have any history with alcoholism, that's something you're going to want to make sure that you're looking for to make sure that when you actually get to production, that there aren't red flags going off. But it's not just about the components of the influencer. It's not this and this and this. It's getting a real nice 360 view about who this person is, because when it comes down to it, they're going to be a partner. They're going to be an integral part, again, a connective tissue of your campaign, and making sure that they fit in the right space is going to be important at the top line level. So now, in front of you, the top worksheets that you have are a bunch of prompts that you can start filling out to start creating your criteria. We're going to take about 7 minutes now and just start filling out that worksheet. You might not get through the whole thing, and that's totally fine. But this will help start your ideation about what does a good influencer partner look like to me. So catch you in a few minutes. And I guess instead of sitting here silently, if you guys have questions, I don't know, sure. Whatever you want. Yeah.
There's so many influencers now. So how do you even, what's the best way to narrow down?
Let's talk after the workshop, because that's honestly what Julius can help you out with a lot. And there's a wide variety of influencers out there on all different platforms. There's a few ways with a tool and without a tool that can help you get it done. Yeah.
What's your advice if you're like in the music and so you're not the brand, but you're helping, like, you're doing an influencer campaign for an artist, so it's kind of like you're helping a different brand have an influence.
Let's talk after that, just because that's a big question. And Linda, I'm sorry, because I didn't really think we were going to have questions now. So I'm sorry. But that's really specific. If there's any questions about the criteria, let's focus on this now, because this is going to be part of the next workshop or the next working session. So really focus on creating your criteria, thinking about entirely what does your brand stand for, what is important to you, and how you can bring it to life through a meaningful partnership.
So Danny, we have a live mic coming down if
Awesome.
somebody wants to ask questions.
Awesome. Thank you. You're the best.
You're quite welcome.
And again, you guys should write on this, doodle on this, whatever gives you inspiration, because you'll be able to get another copy by following with Mike or going to the website that I gave you guys at the end. guys got about 4 minutes left, so we're just about at the midway part. We're a little over that, so. And after you guys are done with this worksheet and you want to talk about what you put down, I can hang out and we could talk about your approaches and things that you're thinking about, for sure. All right, we're getting down to our final minute here. So maybe put down your final thoughts, fill out the final forms, and we'll get ready to move on to the next stage of working with influencers. Stay tuned. Yeah. Good question. But yeah, that's actually, let's dive into the next bit. The question that was asked is actually about that ×4 that you see on the worksheet. We're about to get to that. But I'm glad you filled out a lot of the worksheet. That's awesome. So now that we understand what type of influencers we're going to be targeting, we're starting to paint a picture of who we're going to work with. Now we need to figure out how are we going to get in touch with them. But the thing is that we're not selling an influencer on a brand deal. That is going to be Snorefest. What we are selling is a creative opportunity to tell a story. We are not pushing products. We are coming up with creative hooks to say, hey, this is something you want to be part of. Think about it from the influencer's perspective. If they're up on the rise, which is someone who you're probably going to want to work with, they might be getting inundated with branded opportunities. You need to, as a marketer, you need to separate yourself from the field to really grab their attention quite quickly, show value, and have them get in touch with you. So let's figure out how this comes to life. Here are a few best practices that I've come up with over my tenure of working with influencers. To answer your question, your pitching ratio, 1 to 4 is my best practice. For every one influencer that you actually want to work with or have space for in your campaign or budget for in your campaign, you should realistically find 4 potential viable influencer partners. They're busy. they're not interested. You're going to want to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success by just playing the numbers game. That's a big part of this, is being prepared so that you can hit your timelines and move forward appropriately. The next thing is what I like to call the 2 to 3 rule. Every 2 to 3 days you should follow up, and you should do that 2 to 3 times. After that, it's spam. After that, you're wasting your time. After that, it's time to move on to the next influencer partner. You don't want to annoy the influencer before the relationship even begins. Take the context clues that you need to move on to your next influencer. And in the same vein, you really want to start thinking about tiering your influencers. If you find a bunch of influencers that are good, who's your favorite, and reach out to them first. If you only have 3 spots in your campaign or budget for your campaign, and you reach out to 10, you're quickly going to have to backpedal and disappoint influencers, again, burning the bridge before the relationship even begins. Of course, there are going to be times where time is of the essence, and you're going to reach out to all of them and maybe in a panic. But if you're going to do that, I really recommend being transparent about that, saying, hey, we're moving fast over here. I need to hear from you by this date, or we're moving on. Or something that says, this is a first come, first served opportunity. Nothing too harsh, but something that lets them know that timing is important. So what does your pitch actually look like? Here are a few principles that I want you guys to take away that you can start implementing today. The first of which is to be human. Letting influencers know that, again, they are not getting a brand deal, they are getting a partner, which is you. And you're fun, and you're exciting, and you're selling yourselves, because you know what? You guys are going to be in this together, and they should know that they're not going to be dragged through the mud and in the trenches, that there's someone on the other end who's going to make this a good time. Influencer marketing is all about relationship building. And when you think about it, this is kind of like the first date, a blind date. So your first impression is really important. That's what pitching is. Tailor your pitch. Customize it for the influencer. Show that you did your homework. The deeper you go here, the better it will be. We'll get to some stats later, but we did a survey, and no one wants to, and we heard from influencers saying that no one wants to just be a copy and paste. Spelling their name wrong, putting the wrong name, not filling out a name are great ways to stop the relationship before it even begins. Know your audience. Share insights. Show that you know what you're talking about. This is how, when they're reading it, you'll get those head nods, you'll become relatable, and you'll say, hey, you know what? Danny's a guy who kind of knows what's going on. Sometimes he knows what's going on in this space. He's going to be the one, when I work with him, we're on the same page. Value exchange. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more in the presentation. Value exchange, a lot of the time, people think of cash, which is, again, something we'll talk about. But for pitching, value exchange is your creative hook. This is how you're going to say to the influencer, this is a cool opportunity. You're only going to get it here. This is something you should pay attention to. Showing value that in the opportunity and the story that you're going to be able to create. And the CTA in a pitch should always be reply, not commit. We are building a relationship. The best way to build a relationship is through communication. It's to hop on the phone and hear somebody's voice. It's to meet them in person. You're building rapport. The sooner that you can get off email is the sooner that you could actually have a meaningful relationship. So let's see this in action. Be human. Hi, Sally. Danny Palestine here at Julius. It's a pleasure to meet you. I woke up late this morning on my way to Advertising Week NYC, but had to make a vital stop, get coffee. A little humor maybe, a little self-deprecation. This is something, again, that shows that there is a person on the other end, that real things happen to them, and I can understand who they are. Tailor your pitch. You clearly know your way around a latte. Your foam art is amazing. This one is my favorite. Really simple here. All I did is comment on her content and link to it. Linking is such an easy way to prove that you did your homework. Finding a relevant blog post, connecting it to you personally, understanding what's happening in their life personally, professionally, something that shows that you did your background check on this influencer, and because of that, They are the perfect fit for your campaign. Know your audience. Creatives around the world always need more coffee. It's a fact. Everything happens at the speed of caffeine. I understand this. This is an insight. We are relating to this. Now I'm paying attention. Value exchange. We just released a variety of coffee that has been infused with a unique strain of CBD to help fuel creativity. Would love to partner with you to create a unique watercolor painting to show this. The catch, you can only use our coffee as a medium. This is maybe a little bit more unique, something more exciting, an opportunity to create content that maybe she wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. And you know what? She might get some coffee. There might be some cash. But you know what? The story here is something that I care about, the opportunity to create content. Then the CTA to reply. If interested, let's hop on the phone, or better yet, grab a cup of joe to discuss the details of the campaign. Let me know when works for you in the next couple of days. We are getting on the phone. We are meeting up for coffee. We are building relationship, and frankly, we might become friends. I don't know. This is the time where you are able to connect with them in real person and have a true partnership. So, with your lovely Julius notebooks, open them up and try crafting a pitch. Doesn't need to be long. It can be quick and easy and simple with a nice creative hook, and the CTA is to get in touch. And once you have that down, feel free to share it with your neighbor and see what they have to say. We'll be back in around 7 minutes. I'll try to take cues from the audience. And one more thing for inspiration, actually. Really think about the criteria that you set in the previous worksheet. So look and understand what matters to your brand, who is their target audience, and what's going to excite them. And that's what you should try and infuse. And it's hard to come up with a creative hook for a campaign right now, but that's what we're here to do and try and have a little fun with it. Hey, what's up? Yeah, that's a great call. Does this help? Okay. how about just another minute of writing and then connect with your friend or neighbor. You guys are friends now too, I think. And just share what you guys have to think. And I think that learning from each other about styles and approach, there's really no right and wrong answer. This is just what I thought of. You need to do what's best for you and your brand in order to compel, but also to build a relationship. So let's take another minute and then share with each other to hear what we have to say. All right, when you guys are ready, just make a friend. And if you don't want to do that, that's okay too. We're in marketing, we're in advertising. We could be a little gregarious. All right, guys, let's get another minute of discussion, and then we'll jump back into things. All right, guys, let's get back into the workshop. Thanks so much for participating. One thing that I forgot to mention is that when you download this deck, be sure to check out this link here. We have a few templates for you guys to reference for our pitch. Really easy to use. You can customize it for yourself, but just a little bit more inspiration beyond this deck if you need something with a little bit more purpose. All right, so sorry. Okay, so we pitched our partner. Now we're going to get into something that I'm sure all you guys really care about, value exchange. What is value exchange? We talked about it as a creative hook, but we all know that sometimes working with influencers costs some cash, which you may or may not have, and I get that. We did a survey recently. Again, this is something that when you download the deck, check out this link right here. Great insights about what influencers have to say about the space. But we heard from them this. Pay us. We are providing a service, creative, and a platform that is valuable. Treat us like the vendors we are. This makes sense. I don't want to work for free. You don't want to work for free. Influencers, just like the rest of us, have bills to pay. Time is money. If they're going to contribute time to your campaign, they're going to be paid for that. But in the survey, the good news is that we also heard that influencers, 74% of them, are really motivated. The primary motivation is creative opportunity. The ability to create and share passions and do something unique and fun. This is where you guys find the win. This is how you challenge yourself to think of that creative hook that's going to be super enticing. And the way that you're going to do that is through products or assets. And now, product seeding is one thing, but assets are something that you can or maybe do already create. For a campaign I ran back at the agency, we had $0. But we knew our target consumer, we knew our influencers really well, and what we did eventually was literally steal their Twitter avatar, customized it for them, made it really cool, aligned with the brand, and then gave it back to them and said, hey, we made this for you because we know you're a huge fan of this. Do you want to be part of our campaign? The results were through the roof. They participated without thinking twice, and it was fantastic. And if you want to hear a little bit more about that, find me after the workshop. The other thing is exclusive opportunities. Now, exclusive, sneak peeks and things like that, that's cool. We get that. But where can you actually place influencers to be more part of your DNA? Can they meet with somebody from your company and have a real intimate chat about business or the vertical or whatever it is? Can you bring them in as a consultant? Can you bring them in for product development? Where can you pick their brains and make them feel like they have skin in the game? The truth is that you're going to have to, at some point, combine cash, assets, and opportunity. That's the reality. But what we really need to think about, again, is the story that we can tell and the opportunity that we're going to present. You need to think that the influencer wants opportunities that are going to help them get more engagement with cool content, which is going to help them get more followers, which is going to help them get more brand deals, which is going to help them get more cash. So if you can start with a nugget that really entices and really says, this is something you have to do because it is so cool and you can't get it anywhere else, that's how you entice and that's how you create value exchange. But let's talk about the cash because that's what we care about. There are going to be things that impact how much you pay your influencer. The first of which is scope of work. What is the level of effort? A blog post is not going to cost as much as a video post. It makes a lot of sense. There is higher demand, there's higher production value. There are more skills that you need to know. There is more time that it takes. These sorts of things are going to drive up the cost. Creative control. If you have key messaging and key messaging and key messaging and you say, hey, influencer, you got to deal with all that, there's no room for partnership. There's no room for collaboration. There's no room for inspiration. And what it becomes actually is a media buy. Influencer marketing is not media buying in the traditional sense. And we all know that media buys actually cost more money. So just like this, it's going to cost more money. Timing. There are things such as rush fees in influencer marketing. If you're not giving them a realistic time frame to actually do the work, to be like, hey, I'm going to drop all this other stuff so I can work for you and get it done when you need me to do, that might cost you more money. If you're working with a parent blogger or a parent influencer during back to school season, one of the most coveted times of the year, Getting in that white space in their content calendar, that might cost you money. Social media real estate. Thinking, if I ask an influencer to create a video, that's one deliverable, but then they have to share it on Instagram, on YouTube, 3 tweets, and a blog post. It's one deliverable, but the more that you tap them to tap their audience, that's going to cost more money. Their ability to connect with their audience is part of the negotiation process. And that's going to up the more you tap into that, the more it's going to cost you. Exclusivity. For context, what this means in the influencer world is that if I'm Pepsi and I work with an influencer, a lot of the time brands want to preserve the integrity of that relationship by saying, you cannot work with Coca-Cola for the next 3 months, making it seem that this is a real partnership, right? It'll help preserve the integrity. The longer that you make that window of exclusivity, this is something you're going to negotiate for, the more it will cost you. That's a time where the influencer has to turn down other brand partnerships. And then finally, savviness. If they've been doing this for a while, they know what's up and they know what to negotiate and how to negotiate. That's something you're going to have to deal with. If they have a lawyer or a manager, those people are going to fight tooth and nail to get the extra cash because they're going to want to take a skim off the top. Be on the lookout for that if they do have representation. But a few other things to consider when it comes to negotiations. Soft terms, things like the relationship. You want to find influencers that hopefully are already talking about your brand. Who in your community can you tap and be like, hey, I see you doing this cool thing. I know you're part of my lifestyle. Do you want to work with us? Things that are happening in news. If your vertical is suffering headlines that are not so great or maybe even really wonderful, that might alter what's happening contextually for your campaign. And then finally, authority in the space. If they are the #1 intellect on a certain topic, and you're trying to work with them, when they talk, the whole world listens, that's something to consider as well. And then the hard terms. Business and legal terms. This is a little scary. Things like indemnification, cancellation fees, things like this. Payment terms, net 45, net 30. The more that these terms that you put into the contract that are in your favor, that might cost you. If you should really start thinking when you get to negotiation, what anthills you're ready to die on. Are you really going to give up what's your priority for getting the work done, and where are you going to be a good partner for them? Contracts create accountability. Do not be scared by them because it's a lot of work. What they do is say, hey, influencer, if we're going to do this and I'm going to pay you, you got to do it. But then on the reverse side, the influencer's committing a lot of time and energy and putting their brand on the line. This is for them to say, hey, brand, we're in this, right? You're going to do this if I do this. So it's a good partnership mechanism. It's something to keep in mind if you haven't been doing it yet. But I am not a lawyer. You should contact a lawyer if you are trying to get legal paper down. So definitely something that you want to look into if you're not to already, but I would try and find an appropriate source of information for that. So now that we have our influencers contracted, it's time to get them on board with the actual creative. We brief them. Why do we brief them? One, if you are having a complicated campaign, packaging up all the details in one nice document, a PowerPoint or a Word doc, or even a video to be a little bit more personable and fun, this is how you're going to say, let's start this together all in one place. And throughout your creative process, this is where you're going to say, how is it going to come to life? What is this going to look like? For the coffee example before, are they going to paint a picture of a dude on a skateboard doing kickflips? Or are they going to paint a picture of a landscape, really relaxing, drawing inspiration for creativity? The brief is the place where you go and say, let's make sure we're on the same page so you know what I want out of the campaign. Then finally, for reference, if you're working with 20 influencers at a time, you're talking to your paid social team, you're talking to your SEO team, you want something quickly that you can refer to and be like, hey, influencer, great question, go see page 3. It sounds a little silly, why can't I just do it in email? But if you have it all up front in one document, it makes communication a lot easier. Here is a foolproof checklist of what you should be including in your brief. Your brand objectives. What are we doing here? Why are we creating this campaign? What is our mission? What do we hope to accomplish? You might have talked to them about this in the brand during the pitch. It might already be in the contract, but putting in this document is going to be important. Where does the influencer play in your ecosystem? What is their mission and how do they contribute to the campaign at large? Mood boards are a great way to put them on the right page. Making it customized for the influencer is important too. Drawing from their Instagram or their YouTube, hey, look, this is an Instagram post that I like. I want you to replicate this. And here's a post that we want from our channel. Let's put it in as a mood board for inspiration so they can really pinpoint the aesthetic and feel and communication that's important. And that being said, key messaging is something that I want you guys to really pay attention to. By definition, not everything can be a priority. Influencers are working with their audience to talk to each other. If you're trying to jam as much communication from the brand in that dialogue, things are going to fall short. It's not going to feel organic, and then you might even get negative communication out of that. Negative engagement, excuse me. And then timing and deliverables. You shouldn't be surprised about, or you and the influencer should not be surprised about what you're going to be communicating, how things are going to come to life. If they are going to be disclosing by the FTC guidelines, which I highly recommend you do, and if you want to hear more about that, get in touch and we can talk about it, put it in this brief. Let them know what they're on the hook for. But make it fun. Remember, pitching is part of the relationship building. Contracting and negotiation is a relationship building time, and so is the brief. The more personalized you make it for them, the more they'll get on the same page with you. So, we've briefed our influencers. They're ready to go. Campaigns and creative deliverables with influencers. Every campaign is going to be different. But from my experience, I put together 7 production tips and tricks that you guys can leverage moving forward. It's also in the packet that you have here. The first of which is to concept before creation. Again, are they going to be creating that skateboarding watercolor, or is it going to be the landscape? I've been caught by this, that all of a sudden this picture from the influencer isn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. Talk to them before, make sure we're having the same vision for the content. Oh, another thing, contract for all this stuff when you can. If you want to concept before creation, put it in the contract that they have to share you 3 concepts, for example, and then you'll select one of the 3, and then we'll move forward with that. Be pretty explicit about that. 1 to 2 rounds of edits or feedback. No more piecemealing, emails and emails and emails, do this, and this. Put it in consolidated, hear from your entire team about what you want to see changed, and deliver it to them in a timely manner. Once or twice is practical. Anything above that, you're just asking for too much, to be completely honest with you, especially when it comes to timelines and things. Set communication expectations. Are you expecting them to reply to you within 24 hours of your email once you're into the campaign? Are you expecting weekly calls with them? Are you expecting them to send you the links to content once it is live? Be upfront about this just so that you're not getting that anxiety when you don't hear from the influencer you expect. Again, put it in the contract if you can. Confirm exact channels and timing. I've been burned by this one. Influencers these days have more than one Instagram handle. They have more than one YouTube channel. They have more than one Twitter. Be explicit about which one they are going to post to. Put it in the contract and say you are going to post at 9 a.m., 10:30, whatever it is, so that you are not surprised and waiting all day to see if the content went live. Monitor engagement. It is an influencer's job, in my opinion, to be the vessel to communicate with your audience on your behalf. This is how you can build that one-to-one relationship on behalf of the brand. This is also an opportunity for you to insert yourself into that conversation and build rapport with your target consumers. Social is all about building that connection, and I can't think of a better way to do it by leveraging influencer audience engagement. Prepare for the worst. Not to scare you, but what happens when that coffee has mold? What happens when he takes the picture and it doesn't look the way it needs to be because there's mold on it? Start thinking about a backup plan to your backup plan, because things are going to get crazy quick, and you're dealing with people who are outside of your ecosystem. You want to be able to prepare for that. Be a good partner. You've heard me say this a few times in this workshop already. Influencer marketing is all about relationship building. We heard in this survey also that they want longer-term relationships. They want to be infused with your brand. Don't burn this bridge. I have had great success working with influencers saying, hey, do you know any other influencers that we can work with for our next part of the campaign? Like, Danny, sure, I got this person right here. That makes the whole process for my next campaign or the next segment of my campaign a lot easier. Be a friend. So now that we have the content live, it's time to figure out our goals and how we're going to measure it. This isn't too drastic for some other marketing functions, but for influencer marketing, I'm going to paint a picture here for you. Awareness usually is measured by vanity metrics, things that you can find on social easily to see what type of splash you made. Julius helps with this type of thing at scale, but it's a great way to go online and see what type of impact you're making. As you move down the funnel and are starting to think about brand appraisal or reappraisal, measuring influencer impact over time is a great way to see how you move the needle. Influencers are great at telling stories, and if you tell the right stories with them to their target audience, they're going to start thinking different about your brand. Maybe they didn't know something, or they're learning something new that they can do. This is how you can start to measure shifting perceptions. And then finally, influencer marketing can be effective down the funnel as well. They can drive sales. They can be part of your affiliate program. Using UTM codes is a great way to start seeing the impact. Coupon codes is a tried and true measurement tactic to say, hey, are they actually able to convert? These are the types of things that are really going to depend on what your objectives are. So find this slide later and see how you can use it. Setting up your measurement for influencer marketing is going to be important. It's going to help you also judge if an influencer is actually be able to contribute to your objectives. So forecasting, a great way to see if an influencer is going to be able to do the job and hit the numbers that you want them to. Taking a look at what type of engagement and reach they've done in the past and what their averages are can say, oh, if I'm going to ask them to do 2 Instagram posts, I can expect this type of engagement. We help our customers look at their past brand deals to say, oh, this person worked with Coca-Cola. They got this type of engagement. Here's the post. This is the type of stuff that you're going to want to look into to say, well, if they work with my brand, how is that going to play out? Benchmarking. The industry is still blossoming. There are reports out there for sure, but I always tell our customers to really start thinking about creating your own benchmarks. Start thinking about what's working for you, how much you pay them, what you're getting out of it, and moving on from there. And then finally, organic insights are a great way to start figuring out how you're presenting. EMV, if I put $10 into it and I got $20 of engagement out of it, that's a nice sell. Additionally, if I have 10 influencers that kind of look and feel the same, and they're all sharing the same story, but these are outperforming those, let's figure out what their audience looks like to really start optimizing and work with influencers that have an audience and are sharing content that looks like this. And we are just out of time. Take a picture of the slide, follow us on social, go to that link to get the deck, get in touch with Mike Torp to get the deck. A lot of great assets here. I hope you use that criteria worksheet almost in your everyday. So thanks a lot for coming, guys. If you have any questions, I'm going to stick around. Would love to hear how you guys are working with influencers or want to work more with influencers. Would also love to tell you a little bit more about Julius and the podcast. Thanks, guys.